The leader of the ELN Camilo Cienfuegos Commission, Alberto Fuentes Rangel, known as Dario, was killed in a combat against Colombian army troops on Saturday. He was 32 years old. 3 other members of the National Liberation Army, who were part of the security team of Fuentes Rangel, were also captured in that same operation. Our correspondent in Bogotá, José Manuel Jiménez, has more.
The Colombian Armed Forces have officially announced the death of Alberto Fuentes Rangel, known as Dario, member of the ELN. This happened during a clash in the Arauca department in the Arequipa region between government forces and members of the National Liberation Army. Dario had been in the organization for more than 16 years, according to official information. He was one of the main leaders of the Camilo Cienfuegos Commission. The Colombian Army has confirmed the death of this ELN figure. 3 other ELN guerrilla fighters were captured during the operation, but their names are still unknown, according to official sources. However, they have been identified through their aliases, Shadow, Black, and Daniel.
Pink Floyd musician Roger Waters has a new message of solidarity for Venezuela and for the Embassy Protection Collective in Washington, D.C. The rock icon says that citizens must stop the Trump administration and not allow them to get away with their actions.
There are young Americans putting their lives on the line, trying to help their neighbors in Venezuela defend their sovereign property in Washington, D.C. Help them. Get down there. Light a candle for them. Write to your congressman. Make a fuss. Because this doesn't just affect everybody in Venezuela. This is the lifeblood of the United States of America. Is disappearing down the drain. This is the start of the brown shirt revolution. And if you let Pompeo and Trump and the rest of them, Abrams, get away with this, they will stop nowhere.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro sent a message of gratitude to all of the mothers of the Bolivarian nation on Mother's Day.
You can count on me, Mother of Venezuela, with my love, with my protection, and always like a son. I feel as if I were the son of the mothers of our country. Today, on this special day, from here at the library, from my center of reflection, I want to send all of my gratitude to the mother, which uplifts the family, to the mother who embraces our homeland. With the mother, everything is possible. That's why I tell you, with Mario Benedetti, Mother of Venezuela, congratulations, God bless.
Still in Venezuela, it's National Registration Weekend for the Chamba Mayor program in 335 municipalities of the country. Adults over the age of 50 participated in the registration, which seeks to collect census information for the population, which will contribute to the national productive system. The Attorney General of Ecuador has agreed to deliver all of Julian Assange's personal materials to the United States, according to a report by the Spanish newspaper El País, which says it had seen the official document detailing the agreement. The documents, mobile phones, computer files, memory units, and other devices of the WikiLeaks co-founder are in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where Assange had been residing for the past 7 years before being arrested on April 11th by UK police, with the blessing of the Ecuadorian government. According to El País, on May 20th at 9 a.m. local time, Assange's sealed room will be open for police to seize all materials. Baltasar Garzon, one of Assange's lawyers, said that delivering the documents to the United States is an absolute violation of Ecuador's asylum institution. The Citizens' Revolution movement in Ecuador is calling on authorities to investigate Swiss bank accounts allegedly linked to President Lenin Moreno's wife. Moreno has been implicated in an offshore tax haven corruption scandal. He says that he welcomes the Attorney General's probe into his financial assets, but not those of his wife. Our correspondent Denise Herrera has more.
Since the accusations against him came to light through the INA Papers case, the Ecuadorian president has rejected any connection with the offshore company or alleged assets in tax havens. Opposition and government lawmakers are waiting on the unfolding matter.
We believe that he has made a good decision. We should remember that we've already denounced it, but we also want to clarify a few things. We are still very much interested. There is total transparency, and we are supporting the movement and our president's decision.
I think it was a good initiative that has taken a long time, but that must be the position of a president. We in the Fiscalization Commission have already finished our report that is now in the Legislative Administration Council, and we hope it will go to the Assembly very soon.
Meanwhile, the Citizen Revolution movement is questioning whether President Moreno is being as transparent as he claims to be. The lawmakers also are criticizing the General Prosecutor's Office.
We strongly condemn any use of tax havens by public officials. It's prohibited by law. And this matter allegedly involving the head of the state is now in the hands of the Attorney General. It's clear this was a strategic move on the part of Moreno, because the evidence was presented many weeks ago, and what Moreno is doing right now is trying to appear transparent. But he has taken this stance only because the country is watching. Ecuadorians are outrightly rejecting corruption. The people are outraged that a president may be involved in illegal, corrupt activities.
During his tenure, President Moreno has been very emphatic in his disagreement with companies linked to tax havens. Now, the Citizen Revolution movement has requested that the authorities investigate bank accounts held by the president's wife in Switzerland. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
South African President and African National Congress leader Cyril Ramaphosa has thanked supporters for voting for the party. The ruling ANC has been declared winner of the general election in South Africa, and in a vote which was conducted for the most part peacefully. The ANC secured 58% of the vote, ahead of the Democratic Alliance, which received 21%. The economic freedom fighters came in third with 11%, with a leftist agenda garnering significant support. President Cyril Ramaphosa called on people to build a united South Africa.
We are saying thank you to the people of South Africa for returning the only organization that can take our country forward, the one and only glorious movement of our people, the African National Congress. What's up, man? This is a new era, Congress. We are going to do things differently. We are going to do things effectively. We are going to make sure that we inject growth in our economy. We are going to make sure that we invite investors to come and invest. We are going to make sure that we give the young people of our country great opportunities so that young people can get ahead in life.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again in a minute. The Embassy Protection Collective remains anchored to Venezuela's most important diplomatic office in the United States, and our correspondent, Alina Duarte, has been covering it from the ground.
Hello, good afternoon. We are out at the Venezuelan Embassy here in Washington, D.C., and I'm with Aminta. She's a member of the Embassy Protection Collective. Aminta, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us, why did you decide to be part of this collective?
Well, as a U.S. citizen and also somebody who is Nicaraguan and Palestinian, I see that the struggles that are happening within Venezuela are so similar to what I'm seeing here in D.C., and not just in D.C., but also Nicaragua and in Palestine and internationally as a whole. And I just felt that as a U.S. citizen, it was crucial for me and others to call out the U.S. government for their disgusting, violent actions that only serve the cause of imperialism. And so, you know, I after learning a lot about the Bolivarian Revolution, learning about, the great strides that Chavez and Maduro have done in order to help the people of Venezuela, and considering the fact that 67% of Venezuelans voted democratically for Maduro, it is just crucial to show all of our international support with those in Venezuela.
We have seen that the Venezuelan opposition have been threatening a lot of people, including you. How has been that?
I mean, it's really, I want to say that I'm shocked, but at the same time I'm not. I've seen the Secret Service, MPD, federal agents. They have all worked alongside the pro-US coup, pro-Guaido opposition people that are aiming to just establish and legitimize Juan Guaido, somebody that only 1 in 5 Venezuelans even knew about in their home country. And so, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that the State Department is working alongside with people who are literal fascists. These people outside, they have said anti-black slurs to us, anti-indigenous slurs, anti-LGBT slurs. They have sexually assaulted people who have supported us and ourselves as well. They have also physically assaulted, some of our embassy protection members. They had huge bruises on their arms, and alongside not just with, directly physical forms of violence, these people have also permitted that food does not have any form of entry within the embassy within the last 2 weeks. They have cut off the water, they have cut off the electricity. Shame on PEPCO for working alongside with the U.S. State Department to engage in nefarious imperialist acts of violence.
Can you explain what PEPCO is and what happened? What's the situation now inside the embassy?
Definitely. So PEPCO is basically the company that just supplies water and electricity to the Venezuelan embassy, and the rightful owners of the embassy, under the legitimate government and administration of Nicolas Maduro, they paid the bill. We called, and even then they just read to us just like a scripted message, and so it is shame on PEPCO for just being another puppet of the empire.
And now that you are outside the embassy, what's your message to the Bolivarian people?
I mean, I am in complete and total solidarity with the Bolivarian people. The revolution continues to live. It has been such a beautiful progression. At first it was just a few of us, organizing and starting at the embassy, and to see this blossom and to see so much attention being garnered to it. Although, yes, we are fighting against the U.S. empire, I really do believe that truth prevails and that we will come out stronger than ever before. This is huge. I mean, the fact that U.S. Americans are taking over a foreign embassy within the heart of the capital, that has so much potential to change the ways in which the United States engages in its foreign policy. And so the Bolivarian Revolution lives on, and I am just so honored to be alongside with the people of Venezuela.
Thank you so much, Aminta. Well, we'll be reporting on this and more, and back to you to the studio.
We thank Alina for that report from Washington. And joining us now from Washington is Jerry Condon. Jerry is the president of Veterans for Peace and has been a part of the Embassy Protection Collective at the Venezuelan Embassy there in D.C. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jerry.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you.
You were surrounded by Secret Service and violently thrown to the ground, then arrested while attempting to deliver food. Tell us how you are now, and tell us what exactly happened and why you were arrested.
Right. Well, I was trying to deliver food to the embassy. In fact, I was trying to throw a simple cucumber up to the window so they could have it in their salad. But I was jumped by 5 or 6 Secret Service police. And then thrown to the ground, face first, face into the pavement, and arrested. And I spent the next 24 hours in jail. And now I am going to be going to court on Tuesday, facing an assault charge. Well, my photo of my bloody face and being beaten by the Secret Service really went all over the world. So now even more people know the true nature of this struggle, that what's happening here at the Venezuelan embassy in Washington, D.C. is very similar to what the U.S. is doing in Venezuela, denying people food and medicine, cutting off water and electricity, trying to starve people into submission and break their wills. But in fact, just the opposite is happening. People are seeing the truth of it. They're seeing the violence of it. They're seeing through the lies. And I think the people both in Venezuela and here in the United States and the peace movement here are even more determined than ever to resist the U.S. intervention.
And Veterans for Peace has been actively participating in support for the embassy. You're, of course, wearing your Veterans for Peace shirt. Tell us what the support has looked like and why your group is prioritizing this at this time.
Well, you know, we're a 38-year-old organization of many military veterans from way too many wars, and we're actually dedicated to abolishing war. And in particular, we're dedicated to restraining our government from intervening, whether overtly or covertly, in the internal affairs of other nations. So we're very concerned about what's going on in Venezuela. We've been opposed to U.S. intervention in Latin America for many years. Many of us were involved in opposing the U.S. CIA Contra war in Nicaragua during the 1980s. Several of us actually were, including myself, visited Venezuela in March with a delegation of U.S. and Canadian peace activists and got to meet a lot of people and learn more about the truth. We were very inspired by the patience, the persistence, the mutual support, how well the communities were organized for their mutual support and ultimately for the defense of the Bolivarian Revolution. So we came back to the United States better armed to tell the truth, to share the truth with people here. So we're doing that. We're organizing speaking tours. We're going to have a big Venezuela focus at our national convention in August. And now we're here. Quite a few of us have come from all around the country to be in Washington, D.C. to help defend the Venezuelan People's Embassy. And you, of course, still have friends and comrades inside of the embassy. What has the siege on activists inside of the embassy looked like recently? And do you have any concerns that U.S. authorities might now ramp up efforts to take over that diplomatic office? Well, I know I have good friends who are in the embassy, and I know their spirits are very high. Their resistance is strong. And several of them actually came out of the embassy in the last few days, kind of a strategic move so that they could conserve the water and food that they do have in the embassy and continue to resist. But I think that, of course, they're always concerned that they will be, somehow there'll be an intervention into the embassy, that the police will come in and try to physically remove them, you know, the same way that the U.S. is threatening to militarily intervene in Venezuela. And by the way, I should say that Veterans for Peace is calling on U.S. soldiers to refuse to follow illegal orders to participate in an invasion or any other military aggression against Venezuela. Thank you so much for joining us, Jerry. We've been speaking to Jerry Condon. He's the president of Veterans for Peace and is speaking to us from Washington. Glad you're all better now. Venceremos. Now on to other stories. The Caribbean Court of Justice has reserved judgment in the case of the Guyanese opposition's legal challenge against an appeal court ruling that had invalidated last December's no confidence vote against the government. Over the past 2 days, the Trinidad-based court heard arguments from both sides, but the government is claiming 34 votes were needed to pass the motion. The opposition has argued that the established figure is 33. In January, Guyana's High Court ruled in favor of the opposition, but an appeal court overturned the ruling. The CCJ, the country's highest final appeal court, must now review submissions and hand down a decision at a later date. The Sandinista government of Nicaragua has stepped up efforts to provide free tests and treatment to those affected by HIV, reaching a record number of patients in 2019. The Vice President of Nicaragua, Rosario Murillo, announced Saturday that 2019 has been a successful year for tackling HIV in the Central American country.
In the first months of this year, over 100,000 have been tested free of charge, which is 16% higher than at the same point in 2018. The number of patients found to have the virus has also fallen, and no new cases were detected among newborn babies. The vice president says that this is due to the fact that the antiretroviral treatment is still provided free of charge by the government, despite the new U.S. sanctions imposed on the country. Bolivia's President Evo Morales has paid tribute to Augusto Cesar Sandino, exactly 92 years after he announced the Nicaraguan people's resistance against the U.S. invasion. On Twitter, he said, "Today, in 1927, Sandino, the general of the free men, officially announced that the Nicaraguan people would fight against U.S. invasion. While the elites asked to accept the occupation, Sandino led the brave people in their anti-imperialist resistance." The Fourth National Congress of the Campesino Tête Collective Paysan movements in Montreux, Haiti, is coming to its end. The four-day summit aimed to bring in a new economic, political, and social orientation to the movement. Campesinos gathered to denounce the currently dominant system in Haiti based on excessive importation and which offers no assistance to farmers. The rural sector, affected by a significant loss of plantations due to its ongoing drought, is demanding that the state build water reservoirs to fix this. The movement seeks to create a national movement that integrates farmers, workers, and students living in the rural world, as well as in urban areas. The main points addressed during the discussions were the Haitian diaspora, agricultural decline, and its consequences on small farmers, and policies regarding environmental changes. Lithuanian citizens have voted in the country's presidential election and in 2 referendums. 9 candidates are running for the country's top job. More than 2 million eligible voters are expected to cast their ballots. In the plebiscites, citizens are voting on the numbers in the country's parliament and on the right to dual citizenship.
We voted for the president and for the right to have a second citizenship because our kids are born in Ireland and we want them to be citizens of Ireland and Lithuania.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. Libyan government forces have arrested 4 combatants loyal to Khalifa Haftar and destroyed several war vehicles. Forces belonging to the Libyan government of national accord have repelled attacks by Haftar's armed groups attempting to take control of Tawisha, Swani, and Zahar regions in South Tripoli. At least 4 soldiers were reportedly arrested and a number of military vehicles were destroyed. Government forces have expanded their ground offensive in northwestern Syria, pushing into the last rebel stronghold as calls for a ceasefire mount. The pro-government troops battled insurgents led by al-Qaeda outside Midan Ghazal village in Idlib province. The government offensive has so far focused on areas at the southern edge of the rebel stronghold, resulting in further destruction and casualties. United Nations aid groups have so far suspended activities in the affected areas. UK Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has reiterated his party's support for the Palestinian cause, condemning human rights violations committed by Israel. Corbyn took to Facebook to send a message for the national demonstration for Palestine on Saturday, in which he said, "We cannot stand by or stay silent at the continuing denial of rights and justice for the Palestinian people." The Labour leader also condemned the Israeli aggression on Gaza last week, in which 25 Palestinians were killed, describing it as distressing and dangerous. The silence of many governments, including our own, he said, had been deafening. And he remarked, adding that the UK government should instead unequivocally condemn the killing of demonstrators, including children, paramedics, and journalists and other civilians, and freeze arms sales to Israel. In China, the Silk Road International Exhibition launched this Saturday. Under the motto of New Era, New Pattern, and New Development, the international exhibition attracts more than 2,000 companies from 25 countries. Russia and Cambodia have been named members of honor for the event. This meeting is focused on China's achievements in mitigation and the reduction of poverty, as well as international cooperation. More than 30 activists are expected for this 5-day event, including exhibitions, forums, conferences, and activities focused on investment and commerce. China has said it will not make any concessions in its trade talks with the United States. The Chinese trade negotiator Liu He said that the trade talks with the U.S. would continue in Beijing, but warned there would be no concessions on important principles. Although Liu deemed the 2 days of talks productive, he said differences continue to exist, vowing that China was not going to make concessions on matters of principle. A Chinese economist also ruled out any effect on the country's economy as it relies more on domestic demand than the U.S. market.
China's economic development is unstoppable. It won't be disturbed too much if trade frictions continue. The impact is mainly on some of China's export industries, while our development has already gradually begun to rely on domestic demand.
Indians have voted in the second last phase of the country's general election. Voters in Delhi and northern India have cast their ballots in one of the last phases of the vote, in which more than 100 million people are expected to participate. The election began on April 11th and will end on May 19th. Votes will be counted on May 23rd.
If the country functions well, then automatically the people's problem will be resolved. People's problems, I don't think they are as big as challenges a country faces as a whole. If the country is safe and secure, then its people are also safe and secure.
Thousands of people have marched in Brussels calling for climate and social justice. Protesters carried signs, banners, and survival blankets and rallied in Brussels streets demanding swift action on climate change. Several environmental and anti-poverty associations also joined the march, taking place 2 weeks prior to the general election in Belgium.
We still hope to make things move with this protest. Now, will that be enough? I don't know. But what's certain is that if it's not enough, we will continue to mobilize and make sure that we are heard, that there are things being done to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, and so on.
We've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at tellusenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Camila Escalante. Thanks for watching.